in order to build credit, you have to have credit.
Well, Kevin, I couldn't be happier to be not only talking about Sesame Street,
Yeah.
not only talking about McDonald's characters, but credit.
Right. Yeah.
All things credit today.
Yeah.
Credit scores, credit cards, misnomers, things going on in the general economy. Before we go there, how are things been with you?
Things have been great. Been keeping very busy. I just got back. I was in Montana about a week and a half ago skiing with a friend, and had a great time. It was warm. It was like 40 to 45 degrees, which isn't ideal. So the snow was a bit mashed potatoes. But hey, I was in the mountains. I was with a good friend of mine, and had a blast. Had a great time.
Good for you, man.
How about yourself?
Good. Things are going good. Continuing to, I think last week was all about spring cleanup around the house.
Okay.
And so getting stuff out of the shed and, shout out to the in-laws and the family. I don't know how we do it every single year, but we have a decently sized shed, I think like 10 by 12, but we have a lot of outside stuff. And it's always like a Jenga piece trying to go put together. Okay, the table goes here. What can go underneath the table? What goes above the table? And of course, you don't want so much stuff over the table. And so a lot of intricate balances.
Yeah.
And the kids, of course, are wanting to help out, but they're kind of like looking, tilting their head.
Yeah.
That fit in there, huh?
Yeah.
That's where my playhouse is. So
And you don't want to start too soon, right?
Oh, no,
Because
'cause-
like given the weather right now, yesterday it was almost 70 degrees. It was beautiful, going out for a walk, enjoying the weather. Today,
Snow.
it's snowing outside. It's like dumping snow. Michigan winter / spring. So
Today's a Michigander. This what keeps the cost of living low.
yeah, right.
So hey, bring it on.
Sure. Yeah.
Until April.
Yeah. Yes. Please cut it off. At
April?
least May. Yeah. But early April's fine. I'll be on spring break. But after April 5th, yeah.
Yeah,
Snow's
it's
gotta end.
amazing how such a small change in the number, so like what the temperature could be, could lead to like drastically different results. Because, I mean, if you're out for a walk and it's like 42, 43, it's getting warmer. It's getting a little
Sure,
warmer.
yeah.
If it was really cold the day before, a little warmer. But like if it's been like 40, 42, not so bad. But all of a sudden it's 52, 55. The sun's out. I'm
Yeah.
feeling great. The dog's wagging his tail.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good.
Yep. Letting the cats outside.
Hey,
Yeah.
absolutely. Hopefully Bubba's enjoying the weather
He
too.
is,
Yeah.
And girl.
Yeah, and girl.
Both of them.
And girl, yeah. But,
Yeah.
similar to the temperature, a big change could also come in your credit score too.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, with the credit score in 3 digits, not necessarily 2, but it can make a huge dramatic change. And not a lot of people, people understand what a credit score is, of
Sure.
course, which a very, very generalized area kind of thing definition is it really helps you secure credit and how much you're going to go pay for what you're taking out a loan
Right.
for.
Yep.
It's basically measuring, how fiscally
Yeah.
responsible one person is, right? Because
Yeah.
if you're getting all A's, you're fiscally responsible, you're not going to pay as much to
Yeah.
take on debt because, hey, you're viewed as I'm responsible, I have bill, I pay bill.
Right.
If your credit score is a little bit lower, most people would assume, maybe you're skipping a couple payments. But what Kevin and I are going to go through today is that we've seen a ton of misconceptions throughout our own careers. And so we wanted to really go through, really break it down, do a couple ABCs to really help take a couple of the peels away, a couple of layers away from an onion, theoretically, and really go break things down.
Yep. Yeah. So just to give you a real world story from myself, when I bought my first home, figured I had perfect credit because I had very little credit, really hadn't established much. My credit wasn't terrible, but I had a 686.
Okay.
And I'm trying to buy my first home, but I'm not going to be qualified as tier 1 credit, which would be probably over that 720, 740 mark, right? So pull my credit report, and granted, this is back in 2005 when I purchased this home, and discovered that I had a collection on my credit report.
Ooh.
And what I
Okay.
discovered was that it was from a library book that I hadn't returned. And it was either in Denver or Durango when I was living in Colorado. And so I went to work figuring out how to dispute something like that. So contacted the library and basically gave them my story like, hey, I wasn't even aware that I owed this. It was for like $70.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
long story short, wrote a letter, spoke to someone at that library, got it removed from my credit, and it went from a 686 to like a 741
Wow.
within 1 month.
That's impressive.
Oh yeah. So there are very simple things you can do sometimes. And so one of the most important things you have to do, though, is you have to pull your credit report. And you have to do it for a number of reasons, right? One reason, fraud. Right? You got to make sure
Absolutely.
that nobody's trying to open up credit in your name, and make sure that you're aware of what outstanding credit is there, right? And then to your point, you want to make sure that your score is, in that tier 1. You'd prefer for it to be in that tier 1 so that, to your point earlier, you can buy or borrow money at the best rates available.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. And I think what's very nice too is that you don't necessarily have to go do so many things manually. Of course, we live in 2025 now. And so there's so many useful tools and things and applications out there for people. So for like myself, I get automatic notifications.
Oh, yeah.
And, whether it's through an online service, through a credit card company, there are so many options. I would say do whatever option makes your life most efficient. So if it's through a credit card you're already using, a lot of really good services have that. And so, for instance, I recently, I think it's in the last 6 months, maybe 8 months, I opened up a new credit card. And so, of course, my other 2 monitoring services I had are like, hey, check this out. There's a new notification, which I'm like, okay, hey, this is good because this means that, hey, it's working like it should.
Right.
And so I was happy to go see that. But I think relating back to your point, the payment history part of your FICO score makes up over 35%. And so one of the largest factors, one of the largest weights within the overall FICO score too. So of course for yourself, even though you've been making everything great, because it's such a short amount of time, one little small ding is going to make quite a big difference.
Oh, yeah. So if you're running short 1 month, maybe hold off on your cell phone bill, right? Or on your electrical bill, something. I mean, I'm not suggesting that you get your electricity shut off, but those things are not on your credit report. Things like your auto payments, your mortgage, and any credit card payments are going to show up on there. Now, on the flip side, if you're trying to build credit, one of the things, I haven't done this myself, but one of the things I'm told you can do is, like with Verizon, you can request that that's added to your credit report.
Really?
So that you can show that credit history, which to that point, so you mentioned it before, 35% make your payments on time. And then let's see, 15% is the length of credit history, right? So in order to build credit, you have to have credit. You have to have debts. So you have to have credit cards. You have to show that you can make payments over time. However, one of the myths that I found really interesting was that I think there's this myth out there that you should carry a balance on a credit card and pay it methodically over time to show that you can make payments over a long period. Well, I think that myth may have been issued by one of the credit card issuers, right? Because it's not a myth, or that's not true, I should say. You can pay your credit card off that balance every month, and it's not going to have an impact on your credit score. So.
Sure. Or even going back to my earlier example, checking your credit score lowers it is definitely a myth that's out there when it's not a myth, because I think that's really just showing that you're responsible and being like, hey, what lines of credit do I have out there?
Right.
Is it my mortgage, my auto loan, my credit cards too? And it really goes into another part of the overall credit score itself. And it's actually your utilization. So it takes into consideration the amount of available credit you're using, and keeping it below 30%, ideally 10%, can really help boost your score too.
Right. And so to your point, if you're thinking about closing a credit card, just take a moment, again, pull that credit report, see what your current sort of debt to credit ratio is.
Sure, yeah.
And if by closing that card, you're going to largely increase your debt to credit ratio, then you might just want to leave that card open, maybe unless it has an annual fee or something of that nature associated with it.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I've seen a lot of people online promote the fact that for a lot of credit cards that are out there, you could possibly drop from a paid tier to a free tier and still keep that line of credit open. And so then at that point, you may not be utilizing it, but it's not costing you anything.
Yeah.
And if you think about your whole score, trying to keep a higher score per se, that could be a really good, useful tip. Save yourself $100 a year, keep that line of credit open, because that lengthy credit history makes up 15% of what the overall score is.
Exactly.
And that's not to say, too, for credit scores, you can actually reach out to the credit bureaus themselves who help regulate, run, they're all the back behind the door plumbing behind this whole system, and actually request to stop any new inquiries. I think it's called locking your credit down.
Yep. Absolutely. I've had clients that have locked down their credit. Even Jody, lock down her credit at one point because
Sure.
there were some fraud issues going on. So it's not a bad idea to lock down your credit. It's definitely going to keep you safe. It is going to be frustrating if you're trying to apply for an auto loan or for a credit card because you're first going to have to go through the process of unlocking that credit. Yep.
But then I also go think about it too. Now, people, maybe you're going through a moment in your life where you're buying a new car or you're applying for a new credit card. But hopefully for the consumers, for the mid-money listeners out there, hopefully that's not an every week thing.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
The sign-up bonuses are tempting, but I think eventually the credit card companies might be catching on. Being like, hey, this guy's tried opening 20 credit cards last 20 weeks.
Right. Yep. And I love the credit card bonuses. I'm always looking for
of
those
course.
great deals.
Yeah.
But yeah, to your point, getting hard hits, and that's an important point going back to what you said. Soft hits on your credit report don't have any impact. So if it's a soft hit because you're pulling a credit report from annualcreditreport.com, which is an idea for you, that's a spot where you can pull your credit report for free once a year, any of the bureaus. It does not give you a score. You have to pay to get the score, but it's usually like $5 to $10 to get the score. But yeah, important to monitor.
Oh, of course. No, without a doubt, especially in today's day and age, because a lot of things are very, very secure out there. But what you would hate to happen is possibly didn't set everything up correctly. And then once the information's out there, some people say it's out there for good,
Sure.
forever too. And so it's good to have these monitoring systems that are out there, especially if you can make them, just as what we talk about in mid-money all the time, making it seamless, making it very frictionless. And so it's just something that, hey, it's going on in the background. Like for myself, I love having the credit monitoring services because for myself, I might not get to it this week. I might not get to it next week, but having a notification dinging off being like, oh, hey, there's this. Oh, hey, there's that.
What are you using? So for the listeners and the viewers, what is it that you use to monitor your credit?
Sure. And so I have a Chase card. And so within the Chase card itself, there's a credit monitoring service that's offered through that credit card. I love using the card.
Yeah.
I love using the services. And so it makes it very seamless for me. But I've heard the same is also out there for Capital One, for Discover, I believe, as well. And so I think everyone's going to have some form or fashion because if you think about it, it's in their best interest too.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, to your point, if anything, I get too many alerts. When I issue for something, it's like I've got Chase reaching out and American Express and Discover, whoever it may be. I seem to get multiple responses. But to that point, not all debt reports on all bureaus, right? So you almost do have to have
that's interesting.
multiple providers looking at it because I have seen, maybe it's better today, but I have seen in the past where, there might be some department store card on Equifax, but it's not there on Experian, right? So you do have to be aware. There's at least 3. There might even be 4 bureaus now: Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and I don't know. I thought at some point maybe
I
they
thought
had
it
a
was
4th.
3, but I know it's not more than 4.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm just giving myself some wiggle room there.
Now, Kevin, let's paint a scenario here. So let's go say, unfortunately, I do miss a credit card payment.
Right.
How long? Now, of course, what are my options here? Because that's going to negatively impact my score. Have you seen anyone through your own personal experiences or maybe things that you've heard about where that score, not that score, sorry, that missed payment could be wiped off possibly? Or how long would that stay on my credit report if...
Yeah. Well, a couple of things with regards to that. First off, you have to be more than 30 days late. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So if your payment, for instance, is March 20th, okay, and you make that payment prior to April 20th, you could get charged a late fee, and they could mess with your interest rate, of course, increase it, but it's not 30 days late. You're not 30 days late until day 31, right, of the following month. So that would be the first piece. Second answer to your question, that late payment's going to reside on your credit report for 7 years.
Wow.
And that's, late payments, as we said, make up 35% of the score. You don't want to be late. Of course, we never want to be late on any payment.
Oh,
right?
no.
Usually when people are late, it's maybe they have something going on in their lives that caused that to take place. And sometimes it's not always monetary, right? You could have, an accident or someone might be sick in your family. And frankly, making your payments on time just isn't at the front of your mind. It's more caring for something else. But back to another part of your question, communicate, right? Just as in anything else, in your professional life, in your personal life, and even in your financial life, communication can be really important. Reach out to that credit card issuer, that debt issuer, explain to them what's happened and why you're in the situation you're in, and they might be willing to remove that. Now, I don't know. In my experience, that could be challenging with some of the bigger issuers because there's not a lot of, I don't know, I want to say logic or critical thinking or decision making that's always allowed by the person that's answering your call. You could even go the old school route of writing a letter, right?
Oh,
Finding
okay.
someone to write a letter to. The other idea is if you do pull your credit on annualcreditreport.com and you see that there's a late payment or you see that there's a collection or something of that nature, this is just a little inside tip, dispute it, even if it is valid. Because if they don't respond within a period of time, I think it's 30 days that they have to respond to that dispute. If they fail to respond to the dispute, then it gets wiped off your credit.
Oh,
So,
that's interesting.
yep.
And so relating to that, a question comes up too. And so let's just go pretend, using that late payment example again,
Sure.
is that something that I would reach out to the credit card company for and be like, hey, 7 years has passed, wipe that off, or is it automatic?
It's supposed to be automatic, right?
Okay,
That's what we're
supposed
told. Yeah, but I'm telling you
Supposed
right
to.
now, I've seen on people's credit reports, negative items that go back much further.
Okay.
Now, granted, I haven't been in the lending space for quite a long time now. We don't provide any of those services here at TriStar, which is almost 7 years. I'm coming up on my 7-year anniversary. I did do a lot of that in both my previous workplaces. I did a lot of lending, and so I was much more in tune with that world.
Sure.
So this is kind of based on my sort of previous knowledge. I do keep up with it, but not as much as I used to.
Oh, sure. Well, that makes sense. And so when you think about your credit score, of course, I think the lowest, now I shouldn't say lowest, I think the range is anywhere between, is it 300 or 400 to 850?
Yes, I'm told that the top end is 850, but I don't know. Others have told me differently.
Okay.
I will say, last time we spoke, we talked about I purchased a vehicle
Sure,
for
yeah.
my son. And so obviously they had to pull my credit in order to do that. And it was quite high in nearing 850 range, which kind of, I mean, I know I should have good credit, but it was very high to the point that the salesman was like, "Oh, I'd trade places with you any day." But I've also been told before that credit scores can go up to 900 or 950. I don't understand that
Really?
piece of it. Yeah.
I thought 850 was theoretically the
Me
high,
too.
but I mean, to your point, I'm not directly, Googling,
Yeah.
theoretically what could be the highest. Are there
Yeah.
extra credit points
Right.
in relation to that?
Yeah.
And so that's interesting because in preparation for this interview, I saw that less than 1% of people are even close to, or even with a
Right.
barometer to the 850. And
Yeah.
so even if you're not close to there, just trying to build your credit, trying to be a better, more fiscally responsible personal finance person yourself, hey, that's all good. That's
Yep.
all good for people out there.
Absolutely. Yep. There are even clubs that exist
Oh, clubs.
for
Really?
people that are trying to specifically get to perfect credit. Right.
That's good.
And a part
I
of
had
that,
no idea.
that does lead into, there's a little more transparency today. We've talked about some of the ways that they build credit, right? Payment history, 35%, credit utilization, 30%, length of credit history, 15, credit mix, 10, new credit inquiries, 10, right?
Okay.
So they try to figure out the nuances and just how you can move the score
how they can
in
game
tiny
it,
bits,
yeah.
get the perfect score. I have no interest in that. Of course, I want to have good credit, so I get great loan rates. The other thing I do want to point out too, and this also, I had a great buying experience, but the reality is when I went to sign the documents, knowing that I had good credit, they presented to me initially a rate that I wasn't happy with. It was,
Really?
let's call it, I don't know, 7.5 or 7.9%. And I knew in looking at the document, I'm getting ready to sign and I'm thinking, boy, that doesn't feel right. And I said, are there any other institutions you work with? Quickly got on my phone, did a little searching, found a rate at 6.5%, and one of the local credit unions contacted
Wow.
that credit union and got 6.5% instead of, it was either 7.5 or 7.9. That's
Crazy.
So
Yeah.
don't always just accept the rate that's offered to you. In fact, always do your homework. If you're going to take out a loan, now it's more difficult with credit cards themselves. And the idea there would be try to pay off your balance every month so that you don't have to pay that large interest rate or that high interest rate. But anyhow, do your homework. As with anything, if you're going to buy a car, what price should you be paying for that car? And then what kind of interest rate should you expect? Now, granted, it can shift for the term, right? So if you're going to do a 36-month loan, the rate should be at its lowest. Then probably between there and 60 months will be relatively similar. Anything above 60 months usually will go up a little bit. But look at all those things. Look at the term and every aspect of it so that you can save yourself some money.
Yeah, and some banks too, they might be running some specials. And so historically, maybe XYZ Credit Union might have historically have the best rates here. Well,
Right.
there could be a special going on. Maybe if you're a new member, you can get X, Y, and Z possibly off too. And your credit score, that can make a huge difference in payments. You could be talking about, just imagine for a second if you're paying $100 extra a month, $1,200 a year.
Yeah,
It's easy once you go think about it from that perspective.
Absolutely. Yep. The other just comment I want to make is for those folks that need to build credit. Okay. Whether you have bad credit or you're young and you haven't built any credit yet, you have to start building credit at a relatively young age. And again, real life example, 25 years old. I go to buy some furniture, had nothing on my credit. So they wouldn't issue me credit. So I'm caught in this catch-22 where, I have a decent income, but I have zero credit history, and therefore no one would issue me a credit card. So I had to get my dad to co-sign on it to get credit issued.
Sure.
So some ideas for you out there, even for those parents, add maybe your daughter or son as a authorized signer on a card. It won't always, but sometimes that will show up on their credit report. Make sure to maybe co-sign on a credit card for them. And then you can, if the limit comes back at $5,000 and that is concerning to you, maybe you can call and have it reduced to like
you can
500 or
you can have it
1,000.
greatly reduced. I had that in college as well. My parents, thank God, were thinking very forwardly ahead with, credit, how much you would actually go use it. And so in college, they helped me co-sign for a credit card. Super, super low limit, of course. And it ended up being very good, helped me build some credit. So when it came time for that first home purchase, I had a decent amount of credit built up at that time.
And then again, for those parents and kids out there in the future, when you go to rent, now this didn't, I'm kind of aging myself, but 25 years ago, this didn't exist where they would check your credit if you're going to go rent an apartment. Now that's quite common. In fact, I know my brother recently had to co-sign on an apartment for his daughter in Chicago, which he was happy to do, right? But if you want to give yourself, whether you're the child or the adult or the young adult or the parent in that situation, you'd rather have your freedom, right?
Absolutely.
And the way you're going to get that as a parent is to help your child build credit so that when they go to get an apartment, they don't need you to co-sign. And then as a child, you don't have to, or the young adult, you don't have to go to your parent to ask them to co-sign. So
of course,
building that credit's going to be helpful to everyone.
Absolutely. No, couldn't agree more.
Yep.
And so, Kevin, I think we've gotten time to our favorite segment.
Yep.
I think I'll start off with what you've been watching, actually relating back to Montana.
Okay.
1923, season 2.
Yeah.
Taylor Sheridan. It's dropped on Paramount Plus and Paramount anywhere where people can watch it.
Yep.
Love it so far. I think now we're 3 and 4 episodes in. Spencer Dutton, 1920, of course, set in 1923. He's trying to make his way back to Africa for all the commotion. Now, no spoilers, just for all the commotion that's already happening out on the Dutton Ranch.
Yeah. So I know you're a big fan. I've never watched 1883, but you're saying it's
so this is 19
or what?
Here, let me go provide some context. So you have Yellowstone, the show,
Right.
and then you have a bunch of prequels. And so 1883 is all about the Dutton family, how they got out to Montana.
Right.
1923 takes some. No, I don't think there's any character. There is one character or maybe 2 characters who were in the first, like from a character perspective, but not from an actor perspective. But it's all about the Dutton Ranch in 1923 and the perils that they're facing.
Okay,
Now,
gotcha.
allegedly, if I remember right, they also want to do one in the 40s and the 60s and the 80s
Wow. Yeah.
as you build your way up to present day.
Well,
and so,
hey, they found a hit show. They found something that works, so they're just going to keep
Absolutely.
milking that and squeezing all the juice out of it.
it's a great TV show. I love the grittiness. I love taking a look back of what technology was over 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too is that in the first season, now they're living out in the boonies where their ranch is within Paradise Valley, which I'm not sure if it's an actual spot or not in Montana. But as they go into town, they run across some salesmen trying to go pitch themselves on, hey, this machine will help keep your beverages cold, or hey, this machine will help wash your clothes. And one character's like, now, why would I want to go do that? And the guy's like, so you can help celebrate all your free time.
Yeah, right. Well, I can tell you this much: in Montana, I was just there, like I said, and I was at a party. My friends had a dinner party, and some of the people there were talking about some of the draw. I was in Bozeman. Some of the people that are moving to Bozeman, literally, they love the show Yellowstone, and it drew them to Montana. The whole idea of it.
Yeah,
right?
sure.
That's interesting. So anyway, what am I watching? Adolescence on Netflix.
Okay, what's that about?
Have you heard about it? Fantastic show. It's only a 4-part series, and it's about a 13-year-old, a teenage boy that allegedly murders a young girl. Okay, and it goes through these 4 episodes. Now, here's the thing. The story itself is great. The acting is great. The cinematography and what I guess I'll call the editing is amazing because there are no edits. Each episode is nearly an hour long, and it's one shot.
Really?
Yeah, so you think about like the actors themselves and the dialogue. As I'm watching the show, I'm thinking to myself, I have not seen a cut screen. It's just been, and sure enough, each episode, one shot.
That's crazy.
So, and the storyline's fantastic. As I understand, last I knew it had 100% Rotten Tomato score.
Wow.
It's an easy binge because it's only 4 episodes and they're less than an hour.
You're selling me on it.
Yep.
That reminds me a lot of 1917, that World War I movie from, probably from 2018, 2019?
Right.
Sound about right? Yeah,
that was a great movie.
Yeah, and it wasn't until like 2 hours in, I'm watching it with Rose, and she's like, I think this is also the same cut. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
Well, I'm adding that to my watch list.
Absolutely. I still have to finish Yellowstone before I start getting into these 1883, 1923.
Well, luckily, I've heard a couple people ask me, do I need to finish season 5 before I can go start 1883, 1923? Answer is no. And so you can go out of order. That's all fine. And Taylor Sheridan, I mean, he's just, to his credit, he's creating quite the universe. And so even outside that,
Landman, right?
Yeah, Landman. And so it's not directly related to Yellowstone, but another affiliated show by him. But there's also going to be a show about a real-life Texas ranch called the 46s or the 6666 Ranch.
Yeah.
And then I also want to say, too, now this could be the Sixes Ranch or it could be an undisclosed TV show, but Matthew McConaughey is somehow involved somewhere within the Yellowstone universe. And so...
Well, all right.
You're like driving a Lincoln now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, I can't top anything there. So that being said, thank you again for listening to another great episode of Mid Money.